Hello everybody. I decided to do a quick tutorial today on how to use the swipe method when you are making or working with resin and making coasters. Today I'm going to be just making some little, these are 3.9 inch coasters, and you've seen me use these molds, and all I did was do a small layer of black to come up with some black coaster molds that look like this. And I haven't decided if they should be flipped over or because of the little lip, or if it should stay like this. So I'm going to try it like this and see how it goes, and I might flip them over if it doesn't work that well. So I'm going to do two different color schemes because I like to see the difference between gold and silver when I'm doing experiments on things. And so I'm going to use one of my favorites is the aquamarine, which is super sparkly, from Resin Art. I'm going to use some ginger bloom, and it's also a Resin Art color. And of course, you know, I'll link these inside the comments. And then my favorite gold is this Mehron. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but this is the one, it's actually makeup. But I love how this gold pools inside resin. On this side, I'm going to have purple, which is an iridescent, and these are acrylic inks. So it's ink that people put in pens, but I like using it in resin. And this is just a not quite Tiffany blue color from Ceramicoat. And then of course the same silver, which is that same, oh here it is, makeup powder. So I'm going to put two colors on each side of these, on each of these molds on the side here, because you want to pick yourself some colors that you know look really good together if they mix, because when you mix fuchsias next to blues, it always gives you a purple, and then if you're going to put gold on it, that gold is yellow. So if you put a gold on pink, it can make a really pretty aurora orange color. So in the end here, you could have multiple colors when you only used a couple. And I actually do like how the lip on these coasters is kind of holding the resin on the top, so it's not overflowing. And I expect it will at some point. I mean, the way we do these, I think my biggest challenge is going to be not knocking the coaster off when I do the swipe here. I'm actually thinking about that. Let's set them down flat. This one you can see I mixed it a little bit too thick. I spilled my paint inside here, but I think it'll be okay. I've seen a lot of these swipes when for acrylic pours, and a couple I've seen with resin, but I've never seen anybody do it with a certain color scheme in mind. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to heat them up just a little bit. So I pre-cut some, this is parchment paper that you use for baking. I wanted to use parchment. Sometimes I use wax paper, but this is stiffer, so I wanted to give this a try. All I did was cut some up, you know, in pieces that are at least as wide as the coaster. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the parchment, grab the silver, and I'm just going to swipe it down. It's a lovely little mess. Then you torch it and watch to see if the color comes up. I think those look pretty cool. Swipe. I'm gonna make a mess. We're just gonna go with it. Now, I am not wearing a mask, but I have the garage door open, which I wouldn't recommend, so that's why I only really want to talk when I'm doing short videos instead of the long ones that take, you know, a lot of time. So just be aware that there really isn't enough safety precautions you can take when it comes to working with resin. Let's do the gold. And I have to say, I always tend to lean toward the golds and colors when I'm working on them. So I have to tell myself to, you know, try other metallics a lot. I just think they're so pretty. This is just gorgeous. And I think it's really interesting to see that that purple pretty much took over that coral color. I'm sorry, the turquoise color. Let me go ahead and prop these up. Now I don't have any alcohol inks at all in these, and I think if I did, you might even see a more dramatic, you know, cropping up of cells. So we're going to let that sit, and then I'm going to do a 5-inch coaster, which is the black, and I want to try a different method. Let me move over here. And I'm going to use purple, or this is the Ginger Bloom. I'm going to use that purple. I'm going to try and use all my resin. Yeah, let's see how sticky this is. Full disclosure, I accidentally dumped the paint in there when I was trying to put a little bit of a dollop, and I didn't want to not use it. So I just think those are beautiful. And they change a lot in just the few minutes that they've been sitting here. Go ahead and heat up. And for this swipe, I'm going to put black on the top. And I think much less than I used with the gold and the silver, because that really kind of took over the top of the coaster, or the swipe, which is what we were going for, but I want to see what it looks like when we use less. Okay, let's do our swipe. Cool. Okay, so when I was out picking up alcohol inks, I was also looking for like a little spritzer or a squirt bottle, because I have seen this was just the squirt bottle that I purchased, and what I did was I put some alcohol in it, and it was this is mostly alcohol, and then I used my little spoon, because I have these little baby spoons, and I put some of this gold powder in it. Because alcohol affects resin so much, I want to see what it looks like if we spritz the top of this coaster. Yeah. So quick interruption. Anyway, so alcohol ink and gold in the spritzer. So I'm just going to spritz the top of this and let it sit for a second. Again, that's alcohol, and then just some mica or powder. Look how pretty that is. Hitting it with heat. Now, most of the time when you use a blowtorch, you're supposed to hold it at least 3 inches above whatever it is you're torching. So that's why a lot of times you just kind of see me going on and on and on with it. It's because I have it up high, and it's just like barely brushing the tops. So let's take a closer look at that. I think that's really, really cool. Now, the funny thing is though, you can't really see the black yet. But these are going to continue to change as they sit here. Look how pretty that is. This almost looks like the moon, I think. Which is good to know, because I might be able to make some cool moons using this method. Pretty that is, using the right color, so get some glow and some, you know, darker grays or even silver, and make a couple moons. And that might be a fun project to try, but that's what they look like to me. They look like the moon. So I'm gonna let these sit overnight, and we'll come back and see how they look in the morning, because they're definitely gonna change as they sit here. And then after that, I actually will do a clear coat and make sure that they look really nice before, you know, we do our final pictures for the end of this video. But anyway, so I think this is fabulous. I think this would be a lot of fun, and we could do it many different ways, like swipe halfway from 2 different sides using different colors. Let's see how fabulous they can be. See you tomorrow. Okay, so we are back, and it has been not quite 24 hours. I just dropped and came in this morning, so it actually they look really cool. They did make some change, or have some changes and some of this did drip on the other side. For the most part though, it stayed inside that coaster. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take that sandpaper and sand that off. But I do want to put some embellishments on here and another clear coat before I do that. The big one that we squirted the alcohol on, looks like that must have been the 2 points where I squirted it. So that is interesting. It has quite a divot in there. So I don't know if I need to try it again and hold the spritzer further away from it. So I'll have to experiment on how to do those. But this one I tipped over by accident yesterday when I was putting the lid over the top, and you can see it stretched a little bit, but it still has a really beautiful effect. How thin these are. So these are so thin, I'm curious if they would stick to a cup because they're so light. I don't know if it would, stick to the bottom of a cup, so we'll have to figure that out. And I just love the effect it had on these. And it's not all of them have the drips, but most of them do. So tell me what you guys think of the silver and the gold. So I'm going to do some embellishments on these and do a clear coat, and then we'll do a finished version of these. Okay, let's see if we can bring this one back. I actually wiped the top off with an alcohol wipe just to make sure there was nothing sitting on the surface of this that would mess up any new designs that we did. And I didn't realize that I didn't have the lip side up. So that might have been why this all just, fell off without my realizing it. On the other little coasters, I had the lip side up. So that might be just something to take into consideration. So here's my this is clear, and the resin I use definitely bubbles up a lot. And I think because I put such a thin coat of this on there, I'm able to get the bubbles to pop really nicely because I'm not working on, any resin that has a lot of depth to it. So that might be something to consider. So today I'm using the same colors as yesterday, the ginger bloom and the aquamarine. I put clear up here because I like how this lacing. So I wanted a little bit of that to stay on here. And then I thought we'd mix in a little bit of interference violet today to see how that, how that looks in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and the reason I'm going to do ginger bloom first is because if you look, this coaster has a lot more of the pink on the top, and I don't want to mix them so that it looks too mishmashy. So I'm just kind of stay with how the first design on the bottom went. And because I'm only doing one coaster, I only mixed a teeny tiny bit of resin of each of these colors because I don't want to waste it. But remember that when you're working with coasters, don't make yourself a big batch of resin unless you're going to use it for something else afterwards, which sometimes we do. I'm going to put this in between. Now the interference really just changes the overall look of a color, so I like to play with the interference colors a little bit from time to time. And let's put another thing of pink. And this won't show, but okay, and I'm going to put my gold up at the top because this is where I want to swipe from here down. I'm going to hit it with the heat gun. So the casting resin that I use is called a doming resin. So you can see how it kind of automatically domes whenever it hits the end. And the reason I like using the kind that does that is because you know the 2 holes that were in there are not going to be an issue. This resin will just level it out. A lot of resins do that, so you should be able to tell whether or not your resin is going to do that by how thin or thick the viscosity of the resin is. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to swipe the gold down. And then let this torch do the magic. So you can already see that the resin that I had, this bubbly resin, has already pretty much cleared up. It's pretty thin. The initial heat that I used was to make the resin so that it would move a little bit better. And you can already see. So one of the lessons that I have definitely learned while doing coasters is that if I don't torch it every 15 minutes or so, I don't know if you can see it in this one. I didn't put this batch in my shot because if you look, you can see the tiny little bubbles there. Those are micro bubbles. And if you don't torch it about every 15 minutes while it's setting, for every 15 minutes for an hour, let me make that clear, you don't have to do it all night, you'll end up with, it's not ugly, and it's not completely visible. I mean, anybody who is actually looking at this, it thinks it's a beautiful coaster. It is a beautiful coaster, but I wasn't happy with how the bubbles were still in there. And it's also one of the thicker ones because it was one of the ones I did in the beginning. So I think it has a lot to do with that. So thickness and bubbles. So if you torch it every 15 minutes, you will successfully have it be as clear as possible. So that's just an example. Okay, so you can see the cells starting to pop up. I think this one is really pretty. So let me sorry, don't want to give you seasick. Okay. Okay, we're going to let that set up. And we'll come look at it again tomorrow. Okay, we are back. I think that it looks absolutely amazing. So I went ahead and I sanded the bottom of this and put some plastic on it because we're going to do a clear coat in a few minutes. But I wanted to put some gold leaf on here, and I was going to do it a little bit different from what you're used to seeing, so I was going to show you. And then of course I'll speed it up and do, you know, the clear coats, and then you'll be able to see the final product at the end of the video. So I have the same gold flakes that I always use are all chunked up, but there are definitely little leaves in there. So I like to use the leaf sometime by just tamping it down. Like it's not easy, so you have to be careful. You just kind of tamp it down until it sticks, sort of like by you could use glue, but if you are careful, you don't have to. So you tamp it down like this. I'm gonna zoom in. And you kind of do a little circular motion on it to get it to stick. And it's a completely different look. So you can pull apart the flakes that are inside inside that little bottle if that's the kind of gold flakes you use, or you can get one of those the sheet of this gold, which you can get at pretty much any craft store. And then when you do this just a little bit, it kind of breaks it up. And if you don't want the ends to look blocky, like this has a very clear edge on it, just take a little brush and work it the way you want it to look. So, but if you can swipe it right off, so you literally have to just barely touch it. Okay, so I'm going to speed this video up, and I'm going to do the clear coat, and then I'll show you the final once it's all done.